If you're privileged, after all, if you're the top dog, if you have all the advantage, you're constantly afraid of who's gaining on you. You're constantly afraid of who's coming to take what you have. We've got to close the border. They're coming to take our stuff. We got to worry about terrorists. They're coming to take our stuff. We got to get them before they get us. Preventative war. We got to stop them. That's what privilege will do for you, because those who have it are constantly anxious. A study in June of 2004 in the Journal of the American Medical Association, which received very little attention, found that in the United States, the rates of anxiety disorder, depression, and substance abuse-related mental disorders are twice the global average, 5 times the rate in Nigeria. How is it that the most powerful and privileged people on earth can have so much more anxiety than people who live in war-torn areas? Civil war, political corruption, amazing problems, often famine, all kinds of hardships that for the most part we don't see, at least in the same abundance, let's say, in the United States, and yet it's here. That the greatest level of anxiety, I would suggest that the reason that happens is because it's the privilege that generates the anxiety. It's that constant fear of keeping up and staying ahead that generates the anxiety, the mentality of entitlement. The mentality that says, this is our world and we get to make the rules in this world. And then we come to find out not so much. We don't deal with setback very well, those who are the dominant group. And then when the real world intrudes on us, it's like a psychological come apart, like a meltdown. So when those people in Littleton, Colorado had their school shot up at Columbine, or when the folks in Santee, California, Santana High School, Springfield, Oregon, Thurston High School, all of those nice white spaces, which from the mid-90s to the early 2000s seemed like at least once or twice a year there was another one of these mass school shootings, and almost every single one of them committed by a white male of upper middle class background in a place where everyone said this wasn't supposed to happen here. Because privilege allowed them to let down their guard to the dysfunction and pathology that they thought only existed over there. So we don't notice that Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris are building 35 bombs in the basement. Because privilege means I don't even have to know what my kids are doing. I ain't seen them in like a week. I'm taking classes at Home Depot. No kids of color could have gotten away with that. 35 bombs in what basement? A. B. If folks of color roll up to the Ace Hardware looking for bomb supplies, they are not going to be sold them. But these white middle-class folks drive up in nice cars looking to get some pipe bomb material, some explosives, some real short fuses. And it's for a science fair experiment. Sure, here, you know. All right, privilege. Usually it works out pretty well. 364 days out of the year, it goes okay. But if day 365 is April 20th of 1999 and your kid goes to Columbine High School, you really don't care much about the other 364. Because when you have that privilege of living in that bubble and you don't have to think about what you don't have to think about, remember, there may come a time when you have to think about it. When 9/11 happened, notice the different ways that white folks and folks of color by and large reacted. Everybody was scared, everybody was angry, everybody was upset, everybody's freaking out. But now, there were only some folks who went in front of microphones and said the following, and they were all white that I saw. Why do they hate us? Why? Why? Why would anyone hate the United States of America? I don't get it. See, people of color, they didn't say this. And it's not because folks of color hate this country, but folks of color have historically a love-hate relationship with the society. Loving certain things about it, hating other things about it. But here's the more important point. To be a person of color in this country is to always have to know what the other guy thinks. It is to always have to know what other people think about you, because if you don't, if you for 1 minute forget what other people might think about you, your life is in danger. But to be the dominant group is to have that luxury, or to think you do. To think you do. Of not having to care what other people think. Because you're the big dog. You're the top. You're the king of the hill. You don't have to worry about what other people think. That's privilege. You don't have to know. You can sort of laugh it off. At least we thought we could. We could have that attitude that says, well, you know, what are you going to do to us? We're big and bad. We spend $400 billion a year on defense, fool. If you come for us, we will bomb you back to the Stone Age. And if you're already there, we'll take you back to whatever the hell came before the Stone Age. Because we can. And then 19 guys with $37 worth of box cutters, $1,000 worth of plane tickets, and a pissy attitude pretty much said, okay, I'll tell you what. You spend your $400 billion a year on defense, and here's the deal. Me and my boys are bringing these buildings down anyway. How do you like us now? So privilege didn't allow us to see that the rest of the world doesn't view us the way we view us. Maybe we'd have been better off knowing that. Maybe we would have been better off for decades knowing that the rest of the world doesn't view us in the same liberatory terms that we sometimes view ourselves. Now, people of color in this country already knew better. Because when they asked white folks and black folks before the invasion of Iraq, good idea, bad idea, the folks without privilege said, Black folks were just like overwhelming, no. They asked white folks, and 2/3 of white America said, hell yes, we must do this. They're going to greet us like liberators. See, that's privilege speaking. Privilege says, surely they know we're liberated. Surely they know. Rumsfeld said we're going to be greeted like liberators. Dick Cheney said it. They know so much about combat. Surely this will work out well. People of color, no. Because folks of color know that even if you don't have very much, folks without much will kill you for the little bit they have. Or you could invade Washington Heights tonight, but I don't recommend it. You could invade the South Bronx tonight, but I do not recommend it. Because the folks who were there may know full well they don't have much, but they will indeed kill you to keep what little bit they have. And see, victims have long memories, and so the people we claim to be liberating don't forget that their oppression came at the hands of a man that we supported all of those years. They don't forget that. But those who create that victimization have short memories. We have the luxury of forgetting, so we go in because privilege says it'll work. Privilege says it'll work. Privilege says it will work. And then we come to find out maybe it doesn't work as well as we thought. And maybe we should have listened to the folks without privilege, who know a little bit more about how oppressed people respond to invasion. Invasion doesn't bring liberation, and black and brown folk know it. They've been there. They've done that. But the privilege had this luxury, and I remember 3 days into the war, getting an email from a guy who was angry at me for having written some anti-war essays, and 72 hours in, he's writing me an email, and he's saying, see? 72 hours into the war. This is what kind of channel surfing culture we are. 3 days of war, and we're winning, so it's cool, you know. See, and this is what he said. He said, see, you dirty, stinky, no bath taking, Birkenstock wearing, hippie, anarchist, communist, you were wrong. I said, really? How do you know that we were wrong? Well, because it's going, look, we're winning. They love us. I said, really? How do you know that they love us? And he said, well, I opened the paper today and there was this great AP photograph right there on the front page of a little Iraqi kid giving the thumbs up to the soldiers, our soldiers. See? So they love us. They are greeting us like liberators. You all were wrong. I said, okay, and I'll tell you, or I'll ask you what I asked him. Again, a cultural competence quiz. What do you think this means in Iraq? Do you know what this means throughout the so-called Middle East and much of North Africa, Egypt up? It does not mean, keep up the good work. I love what you do. This instead is the functional equivalent of flipping you off. So this 5-year-old child is punking our entire nation. But we don't know it because we don't have to know it. But maybe we should have known it. Because now you see that 5-year-old with the thumbs up and we say, see, it's working. We got to do more of this. And though I'm making light of it, I'm doing it only because sometimes you have to laugh at the absurdity of this system so as not to cry. There are thousands of parents in this country and hundreds of thousands in Iraq and in Afghanistan who are going to be burying, have already buried their children, and are going to continue to bury their children this week and next week and the week after that and the month after that and the month after that, and to hear the politicians in this country tell it for years. They're going to keep burying their kids because of this hubris, because of this privileged mentality of entitlement that says the world is ours to shape in our image, that we have the right to make it over and everyone else will bow before our superior firepower, and the rest of the world has, in case you have not noticed, pretty much called bullshit on that. So at some point, we better worry about privilege, not just because of what it does to the ones without it, but what it does to us. What it turns us into. What it allows our policymakers to do in our name, which is not actually in our interest. We better understand that this is a system that is every bit as capable of hurting and killing